Every day, they answer the call. They see what most people will never see. They carry moments most people will never understand. But when the call ends, who is there for them?
911, what's your emergency?
Hello, all of you. You are watching Mind on the Line. My name is John Ott. I'm the purveyor and host of Mind on the Line, and I'm here today with two of my very distinguished guests. First of all, my co-host, Mr. Scott Pavlock, and a very distinguished Dr. Mike Fagel, who is, well, he'll get into his background, but a very interesting background in first responders, in the federal side of first responders. The title of our show today is How You Carry It With You without letting it break you. How you carry it with you without letting it break you. You don't forget the calls. You don't erase the things that you've seen. The question is, how do you carry it without letting it break you? This is Mind on the Line, where we talk about what first responders carry long after the call ends. And today we're closing out season 1. And today we're starting out season 1. With something that matters more than anything else we've talked about. Not just the stress, not just the trauma, but what comes after. How people move forward, how they rebuild, and how they keep doing the job without losing themselves in it. Before we talk about resilience, we need to be honest about what people are actually carrying. What do you think most people underestimate about this job? What does the weight of the job actually feel like over time? And what do responders normalize that probably shouldn't be normal? So let's introduce our guests. I'm Mr. Scott Pavlock. It's an honor to have you here, sir. Scott and I, full disclosure, Scott and I have had a 30-year friendship, and this is the launch of the podcast, and I couldn't think of better individuals to be here than Scott and Mike and some of the other individuals that you'll meet in subsequent episodes. Scott, you want to introduce yourself and a brief background?
Yeah, my name is Scott Pavlock. I've been in law enforcement for 37 years. I retired 3 times and now currently working on my fourth, if you will, retirement, where I serve as a deputy sheriff in Dodge County, Wisconsin. I have served up through the ranks of patrol and ending with last couple of years being a public safety director, where I was in charge of police, fire, EMS. Concurrently, 32 years of service in the United States Army, where I retired from the Army as a command sergeant major, leading a training division in my final job.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate you being here. Longtime friend, as I said, longtime first responder. Really appreciate you being here. Mr. Fagel, Dr. Fagel.
Morning. Glad to be here. My name is Mike Fagel. I've been failed retirement probably 10 times in my career. Most notably, I've had a federal career. I've had a public safety career in fire, police, EMS, industrial safety, OSHA, FEMA, DHS. And at my age, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up,
All right.
Which is okay with me. So I've had a multitude of careers, multitude of opportunities. And every day is a different day.
Yeah, I will tell you that first responders, we travel across the country, Scott and I, and you, and I know you've met first responders worldwide, and you can see the trends and you can see the similarities in what first responders take on when they take the job. Because I think one of the biggest challenges is that people don't realize how much they're carrying, and it's already affecting them. Mike, what would you say that you carry with you that you not only struggle with, but how you would characterize the burden that you carry? Because you've seen some things, right? You were in New York City.
New York City, Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, September 11th, and of course all the various events as a local first responder, police, fire, EMS, that you remember those accidents, you remember the school bus accidents, you remember the child call, those types of things. But I will tell you, most notably, this is April 19th, 1995 was one of my first missions. Excuse me, at Oklahoma City bombing. And that was a turning point for me, but I didn't realize it. I did not realize that that was the time that my world had changed dramatically. Here we are 30 plus years later, and what it did to my family, which I'm sorry to say I left them in the lurch many times when I would answer the pager call and go off to the mission or miss the birthday party or miss the PTA meeting or be gone for hours and hours and weeks and weeks. And as I start to look back at my life today, what things have I forgotten to do? And I'm often asked, what's the most important badge I've ever worn? I've had federal badges. I've had FEMA DHS. I was here when DHS was born in 03. All those issues. But the badge that I want to wear now that I've forgotten about is being a son, a dad, a spouse, a grandparent. Because all those other things fall by the wayside. And I've learned that, I hope not too late, but I believe that doing this type of work, I'm able to bring those things to bear better than I ever thought. I didn't know I was in the soup while you're in the soup. You don't know that you're getting the heat turned up on you inch by inch, second by second. And as I went from Oklahoma City bombing to the World Trade Center attacks in 2001, and then to the Olympics and other events in between, Hurricane Sandy in New York and all those elements, I didn't realize what I was leaving behind. And when all the smoke clears, when the sirens stop, hopefully your family is still there. Amen. Amen. Things that I've learned, hopefully not too late in life, is that family endures after all the other things settle down. Again, we're on anniversaries, and anniversaries are very difficult in my mind to me. I've had many surgeries since September 11th. I got ill from ground zero. I got ill 10 years later. And I've had a ton of illnesses from GZ. But I'm not letting those stop me. I'm not letting those slow me down, which probably would have stopped earlier on. But I have one goal in life, and that is to teach and train as many people to be ready for their next event, whatever that event is going to be, because I know in my heart of hearts there will be another event. And I don't know if we're ready for that. I actually don't think that we are, from all the events I've seen. So that's what pushes me forward every inch, every day, to try to make the world a better place.
Yeah, for sure. I look at my own time as a responder, and you have that bad call, you have that bad event, and you just get right back up and keep going. And you say, this isn't, this may or may not, well, this is what I signed up for. Scott, I know you've got some interesting. What do you think that most people underestimate about being a first responder?
So along the lines of what Dr. Fagel said, as your viewers may or may not know, we're sitting right now in a room at a hotel at an event sponsored by Haymarket. Haymarket, strong supporters of law enforcement, first responders, military. And as we're sitting here today, prior to coming into this session, when I was conversing with various first responders outside, and I joked because and along the lines of what Dr. Fagel said, when I signed up, both for military and law enforcement, my wife is called Household Six, because when I'm away, she runs the family. She runs a term throughout the military and law enforcement that we know. she runs the family. The interesting thing my wife likes to remind me of both at good and bad times is I can't produce a copy of her enlistment papers.
Right.
I enlisted. I went to the academy. When I was at the academy, I sat at the academy, and they talked a lot about what we're not going to have. I'm going to be divorced. I'm going to be an alcoholic. I'm going to be all these things. So bringing it back to Dr. Fagel, you touched on the family, and there was obviously some emotion in your voice. What we're here to talk about resiliency and bouncing back after that. What can we do? Dr. Fagel, what do you feel? I mean, it's a two-part question. What is the biggest impact that your career has had on your family that maybe you call it a regret, maybe you call it something that troubles you?
Yeah.
And then what have you done later on, if anything, in this career to not harm your family so much? And I use the term harm, may not be deliberate, but I hope that question makes sense to you.
It's a sensible question. Let me answer it, your last piece first. What I've done in the last several years is to try and be a better dad, spouse, grandparent. Things that I didn't do very well. Nothing I did was through an act of commission. Things I admitted to do. Nothing malicious, but I didn't realize that my kids had signed up when I swore in that they, I had 18 months in the Middle East. I've done a lot of different things. And the toll it takes on my family, I hadn't realized that I was just doing what I thought was the right thing to do, to take care of the national service. When I swore in, it was to take care of the people that I served. And it's been an honor to serve federally, locally, but I forgot that my parents, my kids, were all involved in it, and they didn't sign up for it. That's a regret that I have to this day, that I wish I would have been smarter then. And I understand now that those things are an important part. I have tried to make penance, tried to apologize, understanding that sometimes those things are hollow. That what I feel, I do not know what my family feels or felt. And I can't unwrap that. And that's the thing that probably bothers me to this day, that I don't understand. Everything that I did to them, again, by an act of commission. But what did I fail to do while I was getting geared up and putting my bulletproof vest on, whatever it might have been? When my daughter one day said, as she was sawing me getting dressed for work, I'm putting my vest on. This is back in the days when your vests were underneath. Nobody saw them. She said, "Daddy, are you coming home tonight?" And that was something that really struck me and stuck with me. That, wow, what I'm doing is affecting my kids, my family.
Yeah, for sure. And I imagine the guilt, right? I've been in several deployments as you have, Scott, as well. The guilt that comes with that, the guilt of living or leaving your family, right? How, over the years, what were there signs that you were reaching a breaking point? Were there signs that pointed to, oh man, I'm adding one more, piece of a rock into a rucksack, which in a subsequent episode, my distinguished co-host here will talk about a rucksack story. But you're adding weight to an already weighted down pack.
John, I wish I would have known then what I know now, what I know today. All of us have shoulda, woulda, coulda. What should I have done differently? I didn't know then what I was doing was affecting them, other than they also, they were proud of me, what I was doing, and supporting the mission, whatever mission I may have been on. But I wasn't smart enough then to realize that mission affected them as much as it did me. And for that, I, to this day, very apologetic, although they probably ring hollow with them. When things started falling apart, when my kids were teenagers, I've got 2 sets of twins, I've got a older daughter. I didn't realize that all those things were weighing on their shoulders very heavily, and they didn't really talk about it. That was an event that I should have observed. I'm supposed to be an observer. I was a police officer. I was a firefighter. I was an EMS. I was in the guard bureau. I did all these things. I should have been more cognizant. I was an intel. I wasn't looking in the mirror. I wasn't looking at myself. I wasn't being honest with myself. And that's what I missed the most, is that now, as I'm older, I'm trying to realize where some of those mistakes were made. I would like everybody listening to this to look at themselves carefully, look at their families, because when the dust settles, as I said earlier, their families, we hope and pray, will still be there for them when everything is done, when you hang up your gear for the last time. Because the only thing that endures, and I mean really, truly endures, is family.
Dr. Fagel, would this be a fair statement? Many of us, most of us in this career, I'll stretch that out to say, don't really notice. We don't really notice what we missed until it's already gone or already happened, meaning your family. Did you wake up one day, or did you every day go in there and say, well, I'm going to go out, my family doesn't matter to me? Or was it more like, I know for me at my retirement ceremony for the military, I looked at my wife and they said, you know what? Now you get to spend time with household 6. Congratulations. My wife smiled. And 2 days later, I was signing up for my next venture. And what did I do? I signed up for that next venture. Would you agree that maybe we don't know what we're missing or what we're not doing until it's too late?
Scott, absolutely. Absolutely. We don't know we're in the soup until we're out of it. We keep getting more activity, more action, and more things keep going on. And we aren't able to see it. We can't see the forest trees.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And Scott had mentioned at the beginning of the episode that we're really focused in this podcast, talk about resilience and wellness and how recovery helps sustain resilience, right? What can we do to be more resilient about our own health and wellness as first responders? So the question I wanted to ask Dr. Fagel is that, resilience, it gets talked about a lot, but it's very, very much misunderstood. It's very often misunderstood, right? People think that as first responders, we think resilience is being operationally ready. But in my experience, we never consider ourselves as the operational readiness, as part of that operational readiness. We think tactically and technically proficient, but we never think about including ourselves in that operational readiness and resilience. So in your job and what you did, Dr. Fagel, what did resilience actually look like in your job from a responder wellness perspective?
The resilience changed as I grew in each mission. Today, here we are, many, many years later, after many, many assignments. And I'm becoming more resilient today than I was at the time of the assignments. And that's the key that I should have learned or should have observed earlier. Coming here to Haymarket, I was absolutely, my first mission here at Haymarket, I was here as a peer. But in reality, Dr. Candy Jusman turned me from a peer into a student. I'm still learning. I'm still learning as each day goes by. And being part of the Haymarket family, which I've been for a bit, that was the key, I think, my turning point towards resilience and understanding that each time you put one foot forward ahead of the other, there's something else behind it that you've got to be prepared for. I wish I would have known that before each and every deployment. I wish I would have known that as my family was growing up. They're all adults now. They're all marvelous kids. I still call them kids, but they're adults. I wish I would have known those things so I could have been there for them much better. I recall Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. My kids were very, very young. How much that scared them where I was at. And I was just doing my job. But doing my job, I did not realize what it was doing to my family. And that's something that I do regret. And my resilience comes from being cognizant today, learning what I didn't know. And my resilience also comes from me helping understand my foibles, my mistakes, and I've made many, to becoming better at what I do inch by inch, day by day. And my goal is to make every day better than the day I was before.
Yeah.
Dr. Fagel, I want to throw something at you. If you've been through what you've been through, just like all of us here today on this podcast, if you were to be able to go back, and maybe not even go back, if you walked into an academy today as an experienced agent, first responder, all of the above, your resume is extremely large. What would you say about resilience and about what the officers and agents now should do that you've learned from the mistakes? I know, I'll give you an example just to make the question easy. When I started, I was told I was going to get divorced. I was going to be a drunk. I was going to be all of this when I was in the academy. And that was wonderful advice. It did nothing for me, and it made me scared to death for the next however many years to finally go to a Haymarket or go to somewhere. So what would you say? What would you do different? Or what would you tell a young recruit to do differently than what you did if you had a chance to either do that or say that or speak to that?
I wish that when I started the academy, my training officer would have told me the things that I've learned today. One of those things is family first, family always. I regret not keeping that in the forefront of my mind. And things were different. I had a Wrangler patrol car back in my very early days. So think about that. Google that. See a Rambler. It looks like a Fred Flintstone. And I was told, just like you, some people on your left, some people on your right would not survive. Some would be killed. Some would have divorces. Some would have drug addictions. I didn't do drugs or alcohol. I failed to understand the depth of the hurt that it would give to my family. And that's the thing I would let people know, is that, yes, you do enjoy the work and being a public servant and getting geared up and going out and trying to solve things one element at a time. Always remembering that there's family back home, hoping that you come home better and more able. That's a gift I want to leave with everyone, is that family must always be first, no matter what. It doesn't matter whether you get promoted. It doesn't matter what badge you wear. It doesn't matter what you earned. Because, again, as I said earlier, when that dust settles down and you hang up your gear for that last run, that your family will still be standing. And that's the key that I want to leave with everyone, is that understand what your FTO told you about, understand those things, but understand that when it's all said and done, that if you've alienated your family, you've done a disservice to them and to yourself, which we cannot continue to do. But somehow we still do it day by day.
Yeah. That's a good point. Scott, do you think that resilience is something you're born with, or do you think it's something that's built over time based on experience?
A great question, John. First of all, I think that when we talk resilience, so we're talking the ability to stop the bad stuff from hurting us. The stuff that Dr. Fagel talked about, not becoming the drunk, making sure you love your family and you remember to put them first. The job will get done. When each of us dies, somebody else is going to come and replace us. Mm-hmm. So I think number one, we have to understand resilience, I believe, is a learned skill. I believe that what I've learned here working with Haymarket, what I've learned over the years, I know both John, both you and I and Dr. Fagel, we're all experiencing critical incident stress management. Yeah. It's great. I got into that at 25 years on the job. What I wish I would have been done is taught with those words and what happens to me as an officer, as a military person through deployments, so that when I got done with the deployment, I knew to go talk to somebody. We like to call it a neck up checkup. I wish I would have known it's okay. You're not a wimp. Hey, rookie, you can go tell somebody that call sucked.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City, September 11th, the people that have worked those scenes, a lot of them went back home and tried to say it was, we like to use the term normal. It wasn't normal. It was abnormal, and we were forced to act in those situations, and people died. And so resilience is not that I'm tough enough that doesn't bother me. It's I'm not tough enough. That's not normal. And I need to go get my head cleared.
Yeah.
And whether that's talking to our spouse who can't even imagine what you went through, resiliency is something that you have to learn about yourself. How do you deal with it? We're all told, go work out.
Right.
A workout is great. It does. It produces endorphins and chemically and biologically, all the stuff I don't understand.
It'll burn off that kinetic energy.
Yeah, it'll burn that up. But the truth is, the number one thing is talk. Talk to somebody. And I can look at you, John, as a friend. I can look at Dr. Fagel and say, that sucked. Do you think that sucked? And we all go, yeah, it sucked. And what do cops and first responders do? You joke about it. Guess what we're doing? We're becoming resilient by getting it out of there. But unless somebody teaches us to do that, I can tell you, I, as a law enforcement officer for many years, have been divorced. I went into the bar and I drank and we joked about stuff. That wasn't resiliency. That was masking. So the answer to your question is it's something you got to learn, something you got to recognize, and it's something you got to do. You got to force yourself to do.
Well, that's a great segue because you're absolutely right. The awareness, the situational awareness. We talk a lot about that as first responders. Situational awareness is everything to us, right? Being aware of what's going on. And again, very rarely do we, and almost never do we include our own health and well-being, our own mental well-being, our own emotional well-being in that operational readiness piece. So Dr. Fagel, over the course of your career, and you've been a responder, what actually do you believe helps responders deal with what they're carrying over the course of their career?
So, John, that's a marvelous question. The key that I've learned is to talk. As Scott just mentioned, we must talk to competent people who can help us through these things. And they may not have an answer. I know there's no answers to various elements. But by being able to talk about it, taking the stigma away of talking to people, mental health is a critically important tool that is often ignored. And I don't want to talk about it. Remember the old days, if you had a crummy call, you'd have, firehouse humor or police department humor or gallows humor. Mm-hmm. The civilians, you heard that, they'd think we were absolute bonkers. Mm-hmm. But that was how we coped with it. Some of our guys drank, some of our guys did drugs. I did neither. I went home and built a wall around myself, which was the wrong thing to do. As I'm getting older now and getting more experience, take the wall down, take those barriers away. Because all of us sitting here in this group, we've all been there. We've all built those silos of excellence around ourselves. And we think we're protecting our family. And I've learned resilience is to let your family inside those walls. That's a mistake that I've made, and we cannot continue doing that.
Well, that's an important point, because that's a great segue into really something I want to talk very quickly about, because that's really the essence of what we're doing here, is the essence of peer support. So Scott, very quickly, what do you think the role of peer support plays, and differentiate it between peer support from right after the call, from critical incident stress management, to peer support 24, 36, 72 hours, 2 months, 3 months, even a year down the line?
So first of all, I look, there's TV shows out there that show it. It's an officer involved in a shooting, and then in various TV shows, right away, they're out trying to resolve their own stuff. They're trying to take part in an investigation. As a chief, you learn very quickly the first thing you do with an officer in a critical incident like that, and the first thing that peer support can do, is not go up to the officer and talk about the shooting, whether it was good or bad, or talk tactics, or talk, oh my God, the people are going to hate you because you just had a bad shoot. And I've had to deal with people, and I'm sure each of us in the room have, where we've had to go to those things where the cop didn't necessarily do what's right. So here's peer support. Peer support, whatever happened, your job is one thing: the care of the officer and making sure that they know where to go and what to do. So they're feeling guilty. Maybe they're mentioning suicidal. Maybe they're mentioning, I don't know what to do when I walk away from here. Yeah. And what peer support is, trained individuals that know where the resources are. Sometimes it's a simple conversation. Hey, John, are you okay? Yeah. But, what's bothering you right now? Well, I don't know how to tell this to my wife. Okay, let's talk about that. That's peer support. When we talk length of time, we talk more a critical incident and an overview that those of us involved, and many of our listeners out there probably have heard of critical incident stress management, debriefings, defusings. The goal of those is about the incident. And the goal of those is to educate those involved in that shooting that right now, you may feel nothing when you just shot a child. You may feel nothing. But what happens is our body and our brain are going to process that information. And typically we like to use in critical incident field, and there's no letters after my name that indicate I'm trained in this area. But what we stress in CISM is about 72 hours is when your body will have taken the initial adrenaline, the initial craziness of an incident. And that's the point where you're going to start realizing, oh my God, I shot a kid. Oh my God, this is the most horrific thing I've done. Or maybe you don't care, or I'm going to go find the bottle. So critical incident is where we get the trained people involved that can take that officer, that individual, into aftercare. How do they eat? How do they sleep? What should they do if they're not sleeping? So peer support is get them through the moment and be there to guide them somewhere so they don't run home and do the nasty, which every cop talks about. I'm going to go home and grab a bottle of booze and eat my gun.
Yeah. And it's not just unique. It's a great point. It's not just unique to police, right, Dr. Fagel? It's unique to anybody who serves in an emergency responder's capacity.
If I can add, John, you just brought a great point. Peer support, that first word and that second word are two separate things, but go together. Peer, meaning cops are going to talk to cops. Firefighters are going to talk to firefighters. Military are going to talk to military.
Yeah.
Support is the second part of it. That support is whatever the peer support person thinks or can get professional help with to guide that individual to the right support to get them through that initial, and then that 72 hours, and then the 30 days, and then the 100 days, and then whatever. So that's why the term peer support, its terminology is extremely important.
So it doesn't have to be a big step, but getting them to that point where they're willing to talk about it, just starting to talk to the right person, right? And there are times, and we'll have subsequent episodes, we'll see in episodes with Dr. Cami Jeswin and some of the other mental health professionals, we'll talk about when is peer support not enough? When does it now need to go beyond peer support, right? So if there's one thing I think we've learned, this season, is that this job changes you. It changes you. I know I am not the person I was when I was 18 years old, before I got into the emergency services. I know each of you would probably agree with that.
100%.
And the job, although the job changes you, it doesn't define you. It's part of who you are, but it doesn't define you. You don't forget the calls. You don't forget the experiences, but you learn how to carry them differently. And because you can't run the call perfectly, you still have to carry it with you. The difference is you carry it moving forward. And that's the key. Well, I really appreciate both of your time. This has been an incredible episode. I'm so blessed and so very fortunate that you've decided to come on the show and share your experiences. This is Mind on the Line, and we've been speaking with former Chief of Police, Scott Pavlock, and now former retired sergeant and now Deputy Sheriff with the Dodge County Sheriff's Department in Dodge County, Wisconsin, and Dr. Mike Fagel, who is extraordinary in his career with federal response and emergency responders and in his background. And I want to thank both of you for your time today and for being here. This is Mind on the Line. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Mind on the Line. If today's conversation resonated with you, we encourage you to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who may need to hear it. Every conversation helps break the stigma surrounding mental health and reminds those who serve that they are never alone. If you're a first responder, healthcare professional, dispatcher, veteran, or someone who supports those on the front lines, remember this: taking care of your own well-being is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that allows you to continue serving others. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other. This is Mind on the Line, because no one carries this alone.